Kamala Harris, and actually we haven't touched on this, and we may have gone live a couple of times since she was picked as the VP. But Kamala Harris was picked as Joe Biden's VP. He said for a long time that he was going to pick a woman, and he was going to pick a woman of color. Seemed like the obvious choice. Seemed like, the person who was just most prominent in the Democratic Party that was both female and a woman of color. So, Kay, what were your reactions to hearing that Kamala was the new VP?
Like, nothing really surprises me anymore in politics. So whenever it happens, like, there was no surprise or shock that they did this. But honestly, like, I guess they didn't really have a whole lot of ways to go, especially because he did promise that he was going to choose a woman. But, like, come on. Like, it's just a final nail in the coffin. Like, you have an establishment, old, rich, white dude that is literally losing his mind as your main candidate. And you're going to choose, like, a lifelong, like, they basically just put up a rich old white dude and a cop as their ticket. Like, you can't make this stuff up. Like, everything that's been happening in 2020, and they choose a rich old white dude and a cop. Like, this, like, it writes itself. Honestly, there's going to be skits about this in the future.
What about you, Tim? What were your, I guess, initial thoughts and reactions when you heard Kamala was the VP?
Well, I guess, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know that she was favored to be in the running still, but it wasn't. So I didn't really have a reaction one way or the other. Whenever I think of Kamala Harris, I think about the debate that she had with Tulsi Gabbard, where she mopped the floor with her. And then I also think about how Kamala Harris said that she believed the Joe Biden accusers. So I just think that there's a lot of things that she can't sweep under the rug that they're going to try to do.
So I know I've heard a bunch of people say that she believed the Biden accuser. I haven't heard her say that. I didn't know. Like, I remember that the Biden accuser first went to Kamala before anybody else, and Kamala did absolutely nothing with it. She didn't, like, she did absolutely nothing with it because she didn't, from what I understand, she told her that she wasn't interested in that story. So it's kind of odd that not only did she decline the story, because for a long time the narrative was like Kamala's people looked into it, they don't believe her, and I didn't know that they retracted that and came back and said, oh no, actually Kamala does believe her. The most surprising thing about this to me is Fox News's reaction. Not just Fox News. I mean, Ben Shapiro as well. Lots of the far right talking heads who kind of stay on point all the time. They say the right things, put the right words out there. And one of the things that you're supposed to say when you're talking about Kamala Harris is far left extremist. And that's, or radicalist. Like I was talking to somebody the other day, kind of a boomer who watches nothing but Fox News, and he was like, yeah, actually she's pretty much an extension of the squad into the Senate. I was like, what? They hate her because she's a centrist. Like they can't stand her because she is so center. Now there's like a couple of things here and there where, like, I guess she's really harsh on gun control, and she likes to talk about using executive actions and stuff like that. I mean, Kay, do you think Kamala is a far left extremist or radicalist?
Honestly, I don't know where Kamala Harris stands on pretty much anything, because in the few minutes that she had to speak on the debate stages, whenever she was still in the running for president, her stances on things didn't really come up much. It was really just her pandering and slandering the other people on the stage. I don't think that she really knew where she stood on a lot of the issues. She was just waiting to see whether or not she was going to be picked for VP, and then she was going to decide where her stances were on issues whenever she got chosen as VP, and who she was going to be running with, where they stood on things. I think that she's a very shallow person. I think she's a very shallow politician. I think that the only thing that she's been like super, super fierce on was the fact that she wants to legalize marijuana on the federal level, and that's just because people have been coming for her head about her position on this flip-flopping so suddenly, especially whenever, the right-wing media just came for her whenever she did that interview talking about how she smoked marijuana in college.
Yeah, well, she's flip-flopped on a lot of things, though. Like, early on, that was my biggest issue with her, is I had absolutely no clue what this woman believed, because her policy, her policies seem to change with the wind every single day, no matter like just depending on what was in the news. Project Sadface said Virginia mayor urged to resign after saying Biden picked Aunt Jemima as his VP. Wow, that's but Project Sadface also said that that Kamala Harris is a great pick. So what about you, Tim? You think Kamala Harris is a far left extremist?
So her issues with criminal reform in the past don't really scream far left extremists to me. And I think it's maybe just because of what state she's from, that people might be saying she's a far left extremist. But in my opinion, and although I didn't look in depth into her, I don't, just on the surface, I don't see her as a far left extremist.
I mean, I know from the debates that like she's this entire time been considered one of the more central or centrist people. I remember actually getting into a thing with a bunch of progressives when after like the second or third Democratic debate, where they said, why didn't she just run as a Republican? Like, she would have had a much better chance over there than she had with the Democrats. And I guess they're proven wrong at this point. She definitely would not have been picked as Biden's VP pick if she was running as a Republican. But I would have loved to have seen Tulsi Gabbard as the VP pick. Like, that, she was my number one pick. That's who I wanted to vote for over everybody else. But lots of people are saying that the reason that, because I was on the Dog and Chicken show over the weekend. If you guys haven't seen it, go check out the Dog and Chicken show. Awesome. It's lots of people say it's just like my show, except it's a lot more fun. So if you didn't think those clips of me twerking and shaking that thing were fun, then fine, go to the Dog and Chicken show then. But they think that Biden is going to resign almost immediately. They think that whoever his VP pick is actually who the presidential candidate is. I don't think that's true. I mean, I think he'll finish 4 terms or 4 years, right? Like, he said he doesn't want to run for a second term. No, why don't you think you think that like a vote for Biden is actually a vote for Kamala?
I thought that from the beginning. I knew that it was very unlikely that out of all the candidates that were on that stage that anybody was coming out ahead of Biden. I think that the DNC chose Biden as their candidate at the very beginning of this race because they saw that he reflected well with moderate establishment Democratic voters, that he would go over well enough with the Democratic voting base because he was Obama's vice president for 8 years. And they also knew that he was absolutely going insane. And his mental health has deteriorated very, very rapidly over the course of this campaign. And I don't think that he's going to resign. I think they're going to declare him incompetent probably rather quickly. I don't think that he finishes out a full year in presidency.
Real quick, I see that there are a bunch of people on a separate thing on my page. I screwed up. So in that chat, I posted some links so that you guys are able to make it into onto another video where we can actually see your comments. But if you're on the chat on my wall, we're not able to see anything that you're saying right now. You'll have to go to the Tomfoolery page on either Facebook or on YouTube. I don't know why my chat's screwing up like this, but that's the way it is. All right, what about you, Tim?
I think that the DNC should be ashamed of themselves, really, for trying to put Joe Biden up as a presidential candidate, because I mean, I've seen some really weird clips of this guy. He's sniffing hair. In one clip, I saw him try to bite a speaker's finger. Like during, she held her hand out.
That was
tried to bite it.
That was his wife. He was kissing her finger, but
oh well, it's still weird, to do during the middle of a speech. But he has a history of stuttering and things. I don't think that's related to whatever his downhill decline is, because I have a history of stuttering. So, but still, I mean, you can kind of see, like, maybe 8 years ago it would have been better for him, but I think right now, I mean, they're using him and it's not looking good for him, and that maybe this is a ploy to get Kamala Harris to be the real presidential pick. But why is what I want to know. Like, what's the logic behind that?
Because maybe they think that Biden is not mentally capable of making it through an entire 4 years, but they do think he's capable of winning the presidency over Trump. Like, he's a much more well-known name than Kamala Harris is. And so if that's who they want to be the president, they can just slip her in there by getting Obama's vice president to run.
Yeah, I can agree with that logic.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, Tantui Tin Man said, Kay is correct. Biden isn't a long-term candidate. He's there as a placeholder for the establishment. Project Sadface said, someone slips up a few times talking, and now they have mental health issues. Come on. I've seen, he tried to bite his wife's fingers. That's not weird. He was being funny. Yeah, lots of people thought it was cute. I mean, it was his wife while she was talking. He kissed her finger. But I don't think it's fair, Project Sadface, to say he slipped up a few times and now we think he has mental health issues.
He can't string a coherent sentence together. Not without people on his team helping him. If he doesn't have his conversational points mapped out for him, he cannot string a coherent thought together on his own. Yeah.
Well, and I know the Project Sadface is probably going to go in this direction, but neither can Trump. I think we all agree. Like, Trump can't string a coherent sentence together either. He sounds like a caveman talking when he just puts these short little sentences together that don't actually make sense if you read them on paper. But I mean, he's forgotten what state he was in while campaigning. He's been like in the middle of sentences and completely forgotten what he was saying. He has said horribly inappropriate things that you would think like he has to be just kind of lost on what he's saying right now.
Poor kids are just as smart as white kids.
Poor kids are just as smart as white kids. Yes. If you vote for Trump, then you're not really black. The men were created to go. You know the thing. Like, and look, I seriously, I have avoided talking about Biden and his mental gaffes because it is kind of ableism. It is like it is kind of wrong, and I agree with what you guys said. The hardest part about the entire Democratic campaign right now is that people are truly backing him still. Like, he has family who's not telling him, dude, you are not okay. This is not something that you should be doing right now. This is not like, you are not in a mental state to be running for president of all things. And so I don't know that I think he's mentally capable of being president. Now, if I talk to a liberal who's a big fan of Trump or of Biden's, he would say, or they would say, that he's been doing these sorts of gaffes all along, that he's always had these issues, even when he was Obama's VP. He had these sorts of gaffes. That's just the way he's always been. It's not because he's old and losing his mind, but that's just the way he's always been. Dakota said Harris called Biden a racist and sexist during one of the debates, but now she is fine being his running mate. It shows how phony she is. Real quick, guys, just so you know, there's a bunch of people on my wall. For some reason, this show is not letting us see the comments on my wall. I posted some links up above, but you'll have to go to the page on Tomfoolery on either Facebook or YouTube in order for us to be able to pull up your comments. Project Setface said Biden mentally is fine. Todd Tui Tin Man said a vote for Biden is essentially a vote for Harris. And then Todd Tui also said Biden's campaign looks like elder abuse for leading him around like a circus bear. Definitely. That's exactly what I'm saying. It seems wrong that they're allowing this guy to continue going out there. Project Sadface also said, you people act like he just came out of the old folks' home. Jesus, he is sharp as a whip. You people are just watching too much Fox News. I literally have not watched any Fox News. I've only watched Biden's I've watched his speeches and things like that, and that's the conclusion I've come to. Almost everybody I've talked to, all liberals are willing to admit that he is practically brain dead right now, but they're still willing to vote for a brain dead person over Trump. I don't know why that would be hard for you to admit. Dakota Bogert said, did that guy really just call Biden sharp? Sorry. What could we say, I guess, in turn to say, like, well, obviously he's having these issues. We're not doctors, by the way. None of us are claiming to be doctors or to be giving a diagnosis. It's just a matter of whether or not someone is mentally fit to be in office. And I don't think either candidate is mentally fit to be in office.
Our choices are essentially the Democratic ticket, the guy that's in the middle stages of dementia, and the Republican ticket of a guy that's possibly in the very early stages of dementia. And this is where we are as a country. Hooray for us.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree with that. 100%.
Tony G said Biden is as sharp as a plastic restaurant spoon. Project Sad Face. Yeah, go ahead.
I feel bad for the guy because I want to like him, and I probably would like him if I met him in person. Even now, I mean, I don't dislike a person because I think they're a little off, but I mean, I don't know what to say. I just think that, not that he's the wrong guy. I want to like him, but there's clearly an issue here. I mean, and I think he's clearly being used. And I think more people need to hold his campaign accountable, or the Democratic National Convention, or whoever runs the show. They need to hold those people accountable.
Yeah, I
But,
appreciate everybody joining us today. Real quick, take a second, hit the thumbs up button. This is streaming Saturdays on Tomfoolery. If you're on my wall, the comments aren't popping up for us, so we won't be able to see them. That's fine. If you're not worried about it, then that's perfectly fine. But we do pull people's comments up on the screen so that we can read them, so that everybody on all of the platforms that we're streaming on can see them. So we're streaming on numerous platforms between both YouTube and Facebook, just in a bunch of different directions. But appreciate everybody joining us. Yeah, just hit that thumbs up button real quick. And then also, yes, Tantui, smash the thumbs up for freedom and for liberty. Project Sad Face said, I feel bad for America if you think we would be better with 4 more years of Trump. He is a wonderful, kind man that wants the best for this country. Absolutely nobody is saying we would be better with 4 years of Trump. Nobody has said that. To say, like, and this is the problem, this is what I got into with a bunch of other people earlier this week, where they're like, you shouldn't be criticizing Biden. We should all be unified. And I was like, so you guys want to be like the Trumpers who can't absolutely not admit when he does something wrong, like, or when there's an issue, like you guys are going to be those people just for Biden now? Does that make sense to you? Like, all of the people that you've been making fun of this entire time, and that all of you guys just lose your minds over, that you can't stop talking about, and you get your TDS and everything. Now you're going to become those people just for somebody else. That doesn't make any sense to me. I'm going to continue to be critical of both people, regardless of what party they sign up for, or whatever letter they put next to their name.
I really hate the argument of, if you're not for Biden, then you must be for Trump, because it's just so ridiculous. And it's why we have such a growing margin of people that are in the middle, that, they classify themselves as independents, or even people that are growing. The Libertarian Party is growing simply for the fact that people are so fed up with the two-party system. It's like, if you're not for this person, then you have to be for this person. And the candidates that we are being given by the two-party system is just getting more and more extreme and more ridiculous. The people in the middle are so incredibly fed up. It's like, I don't like Biden. I don't like Trump. At this point, I would be fine if a giant meteor came and took us all out, because it's getting so incredibly ridiculous to be involved in politics these days.
Dakota said Trump has been bad for the state of politics in this country as a whole, but I'm more afraid of the radical left than I am of Trump, of the Trump administration. I don't think Biden has much to do with the radical left. I know that he's been negotiating terms with Bernie to get the progressive vote, which I think is more of just a political stunt more than anything else. He has absolutely no reason to follow through on any of the things that he doesn't want to do. But I don't think that Biden is radical left by any definition of the word, and neither is Kamala Harris. Project Sad Face said, it's clear if you aren't for Biden, you are for Trump. Who else do you have to choose? You don't have to be for either. That's, I think, Kate, I believe that's what you were saying, right? Like, you don't have to be for either one of them.
No, and I don't intend on voting for either one of them.
Well, okay, so I'm going to take Project Sad Face's side on that one then. If you're saying, Because, like, whether or not I'm for somebody, whether or not I'm voting for somebody, whether or not I criticize them, like, I can't stand Biden. There is nothing about his policies or politics that I enjoy. There's almost nothing that I agree with on his side, but I will probably end up voting for him just because of what Dakota said. Like, Trump has been kind of detrimental to the state of politics. And so that doesn't mean that all of a sudden, because I'm voting for Biden, because I want him to win, that now I'm just not going to criticize him whatsoever. He's perfect. Nothing's wrong with his brain. All of those gaffes, he meant to do those things. That was on purpose. That was all normal. That's perfectly normal. All of the like sexual harassment stuff, that's all perfectly normal, guys. This is, you guys don't see this everywhere you go. Yeah, I'm not going to do that one. And then he also said Biden isn't radical left, which I agree with. I don't know why people keep calling Biden or Kamala radical left.
He's way too establishment, I think. Like, he's been there for, 40 years in Congress. He's not radical anything, except for establishment.
Tony G said, and that's sad that you have to vote for a guy with dementia that you don't like. Completely agreed. I am not happy about it. Now, lots of people keep saying, when you have to vote for the lesser evil, it's obvious that the state of our politics are broken. I don't agree with that at all. Like, unless you think that Congress should be running the entire country and that we should have like a commission of elders who all sit on a panel and act as presidents together, you're going to have to come down to one person in the end. Like, even if we do this like March Madness style where everybody moves up the bracket until there's the last two in the end, it still comes down to two people in the end, and you still end up picking the lesser of two evils, right?
We should have presidential brackets.
Maybe.
What we should have is March Madness brackets for presidential races, where we can fill them out.
Totally fill out a presidential bracket.
I mean, politics are filling the empty space that sports are leaving behind right now. So for sure. Sorry, Tim, go ahead.
All right. So to your, let me play devil's advocate here about your two sides, because in Minnesota, when I lived there when I was a kid, we had Jesse the Body Ventura run as governor, and he was on his own ticket. So there were three parties, and he won the majority of the third of the votes to be governor. So I think that it doesn't always have to come down to just a two-party system. There are moments in history where a third party is a viable option, but the problem is that we don't teach or enforce or give that option to everybody, because we like our dichotomies, and we like being comfortable, and a two-party system is comfortable.
Well, even say we had four parties, okay? Say like the Green Party and the Libertarian Party actually make it onto the ballot. Do you not think that it should still come down to two people in the end, regardless of what the party system is?
No, I don't think so. And I think Minnesota's governor race that I just mentioned is an example of that. You don't have to have a two-party system, and sometimes that three-party option can shake things up, and be better for us. I'm dreaming there, but I mean, we should at least have that option.
Well, I mean, first past post just means that those are the two people who end up on the ballot. You're still able to write somebody in, and if enough people want to write in a third-party candidate, they're allowed to. But my main thing is that in 2016, the Republicans had over 20 different candidates to choose from, and they and they chose Trump. Okay, in 2020, the Democrats had over 20 candidates to choose from, and they chose Biden. Like, it's not, I don't think it's fair to say like, oh, it's just a lesser of, or that the lesser of two evils is killing the country. Like, no, most of the people in your party, like the majority that wanted this person, chose that person. That's who they voted for. And
but I think that what Kim is saying is like there's an issue with not having a third party option being validated. Like, I know several people that are going to go to the polls and vote for Trump. They don't like Trump, they don't want Trump, but he's not Biden, and they don't see a third party candidate as a viable candidate. And I tell people all the time, if everybody that said I would like to vote third party, but I don't see them as a chance of having a chance at winning, so I don't want to throw my vote away. If everybody that said that went out and voted third party, imagine how many votes a third party candidate could actually get.
It's not just that if they don't win, then you're throwing your vote away. It's also the fact that even if Jo Jorgensen currently is the representative for the Libertarian Party, and even if everybody votes for her and she wins, there's absolutely nothing she can do, because there's no libertarians in Congress. There's no libertarians in the Senate. There's no libertarian governors. Libertarians have not used the process correctly to where you start building like a coalition and move your way up to the presidency. They just run for president every 4 years, and then they're upset when nobody votes for them. And it's like, you haven't built your party though. Like, you have to actually build them. You need to start with mayors, and you need to start with city council people and stuff like that. You need smaller people running as libertarians in order to get to get the party out there and make people feel like you're actually legitimate. Dakota said he may not be radical, but Harris is pretty damn left. A vote for Biden is really a vote for Harris. Yeah, we went over this a little bit earlier, but Harris has like a couple of like, I want to say her tactics are radical in some ways, and she could be kind of a tyrant in the way that she does things. I don't think I want to call them far left by any means, but she's a radical centrist, I guess. I don't know.
I'm not entirely convinced that she's not Satan.
Mm-hmm. Tantui said, even if you don't want to choose one of the two choices, you're getting one or the other regardless. Yep. Tony G said, the only time Dems and reps work together is to hold down a third party. Yeah.
Yeah.
Project Sadface said, tell everyone who died for voting rights that I'm just staying home because someone will win no matter what. There is a third party. If the third party gets more than 5%, they get to debate. Yeah.
I think that's a dumb rule.
That is a dumb rule.
Why is that a dumb rule, though? If I decided that I wanted to go run for president right now, there's absolutely no reason why I should just end up on stage just because I say I'm running for president. You should have a big enough backing in order to get up on stage.
Yeah, I mean, 5% at least shows that you have some following, but so does at least 2%. I mean, that equals how many thousands of people. And if you've got something like that, then why not just humor the third party candidate and say, okay, get up here. I mean, they could do it like they did to Ben Carson and not let him speak, but I just think that it's kind of a dumb rule that you have to get 5%. Like, maybe they should do it in between 2 and 5. See what that person has to say.
Yeah, the way I look at it is, out of the millions of people that, make up these percentages, if you have enough of a backing to make up even 1%, then you have a backing, and you should be able to get up on the stage with the other party candidates and have your position heard.
Yeah, but you guys saw how many people were on the stage for the Democrats. Like that was a lot of people. And nobody was able to say anything or do anything, and they hurt their party a lot. Like, we could have a different candidate today than Joe Biden if there was a smaller amount of people up there to where they were able to have like a real conversation and a real debate instead of switching between 20 something people to where each one of them gets to speak like 2 or 3 times within 3 hours. That just hurt their party more. Somebody could have risen up and looked better than Biden, but Biden won by default just because he was the most well-known name on stage.
But what I'm talking about is when you start to narrow down your fields. So when you get like a handful of Republican candidates that are strong enough, and then a handful of Democratic candidates that are strong enough, and then you introduce maybe a third party and do it that way, instead of just at the very beginning and them getting lost in all of the noise.
But you're saying that a third party candidate would then get an advantage over the other 19 people who ran on the Democratic ticket.
I don't know. You might. I don't think so, because they're not. I mean, they're not in the same party. You don't even have to have them on the same stage as a Republican or a Democrat.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I understand, the Green Party and the Libertarian Party both just kind of picked candidates. They didn't even have like their people vote for them, or isn't that what you said, Kay?
Well,
I know that's the Green Party. I don't know about the Libertarian Party.
The problem, an underlying problem with getting a valid third-party option whenever it comes to the presidential election, is that the Libertarian Party as a whole, as like an organization, just like the DNC, just like the GOP, is incredibly corrupt. It's ridiculous. The people that are in these positions of power and the LP are just as interested in power and money and playing the game of politics as they are in the Republican Party and in the Democratic Party. And so since our party is so incredibly small and has not been legitimized yet, that playing that game and doing it that way is actually further hurting our cause, because you can't even get support for the Libertarian candidate across the board of Libertarian voters. There's a huge chunk of Libertarian voters that are not going out and voting for Jo Jorgensen this time around because they did not have a voice in picking her. They felt incredibly blindsided whenever she was given the nomination. I was in a live stream with 5 other women that are Libertarian voters. Nobody had any idea who this woman was. We had never heard of her up to that point. Whenever she was given the nomination, it was announced that she was going to be the Libertarian Party's candidate. Everybody else was polling for other candidates, and unfortunately, our voices as Libertarian voters was not heard because people are more interested in playing a political game than they are at appeasing their voting base. And Jo Jorgensen, they could play the woman card, and that's all it was, because that's what was the big ticket this time around whenever picking presidential candidates. It's the only reason why Kamala Harris was up on that stage to begin with, because she was playing the woman card. Elizabeth Warren played the woman card. It's what was the hot ticket. So they thought that they were going to take this and run with this, and that they might be able to pull never Trumpers or more moderate Democratic voters, because there were so many far left progressive people on the Democratic stage. And I think that's extremely backfired on them.
Let's see. Project Sadface said George Washington was the last independent president. Tony G said, if Biden trips and falls into a win, Kamala is sworn in by mid-2022. Tony G thinks there's absolutely no chance that Biden's going to win. I think he's most likely to win. That's what the polling shows. I believe in polling. I'm not a science denier, so I believe in polling. So Dakota said, I think Ben Carson would have been a great president. I would vote for him over Trump any day. Tony said, Biden on stage is going to... never mind. Project Sadface said every politician is for money and helping their friends, but we have never had a president as bad as Trump ever. Jolene Alice said third parties wouldn't work in our system. It splits one party and gives the advantage to the other party. Appreciate you joining us today, Jolene. Everybody take a second, hit that thumbs up button, hit those hearts, hit those reminders so that you can join us every time we go live. We do all sorts of political streams, philosophical streams. We have lots of debates and all sorts of stuff on here. So we're currently building up a community of people who want to disagree with each other and disagree with us, and that's currently what's happening. So it's working. So, and that's I agree with Jolene. I think that that's a big issue with the third party candidates. Look, if we had compulsory voting where everybody legally had to vote, which I am completely in favor of, I think that I would be in favor of third and fourth party candidates. But currently right now, about 50% of the country votes every single election. And whoever wins only wins by like 51% each time. So if 50% of the country votes and 51% of the country got the win, or 51% of that vote got the win, that means like 25 to 26% of the country actually picked the president. 26% of the country. And then even less than that, a lot of the times, when you consider the fact that we have electoral college and that the popular vote doesn't even win. Like, it could be even smaller than 25% of the country choosing the president. So right now, with the small amount of people that are actually voting, I am not in favor of third-party candidates because they're taking away from the other two parties getting votes. And mostly right now, it's Trump who's losing votes to Kanye, and it's Trump who's losing votes to Joe Jorgensen, and Biden isn't losing votes to anybody, which is another reason why I think polling is so great for Biden, is because Trump's losing votes to two other people.
I don't think you and Jolene know what you're talking about. I'm just kidding. I know Jolene, so I'm just giving her a hard time. But I'm still going to disagree with you there. And I'm still holding by my Minnesota example that it's still possible. And just because, only 50% of the United States votes for one candidate over another, that doesn't mean that it's going to be the right pick. I mean, you could have the right pick in the third party, and but you'd never know that because you're so worried about that 25% getting their need in their what they want to say versus the other one, when it can be split up into more than that. I sound like Joe Biden right now. I don't know.
Well, no. Okay, so no, I get exactly what you're saying. So say my first pick is Joe Jorgensen. My second pick is Donald Trump. Okay, say those are my first two picks. But I'm pretty sure that if I vote for Joe Jorgensen, I'm taking away from Donald Trump, and then therefore Biden automatically wins. Okay, so this is just an example. Project Sadface, chill out. But I'm not actually voting for Trump. Okay, so just calm down, take some Xanax, it'll be okay. Yes, breathe. So if I think that voting for Joe is actually going to take away from Trump, and what the last thing in the world I want is for a far radical leftist like Joe Biden to win, then I have to go vote for Trump now to make sure that Biden doesn't get in and turn us into a socialist country. right?
Uh, I don't want to concede my argument, so
Okay.
I have
Fair enough.
okay. I'm gonna go full libertarian. I'm gonna be token libertarian argument here. Okay,
Here we go.
because here is the problem: is libertarians, as far as voting goes, up until 2016, like you didn't really hear much from libertarian voters. They pretty much just voted one way or the other, and for the most part, libertarians are probably going to vote red on most issues. They just are, because the Democrats are more pro-government than the Republicans are, at least historically. But you had kind of a turn in tide with the 2016 election, where libertarian voters kind of started to get fed up with their voices not being represented, their concerns not being heard. And so what you're seeing is in lower level elections, this is what happened a lot during midterms, is libertarians were like, the GOP tried to recruit them, libertarians, vote for our candidates. And the libertarians give us a candidate that we can vote for then, because we're tired of putting our vote behind candidates that we don't support. And then the GOP continued to put up crappy candidates that the LP people did not want and could not support. So they either A, stayed home and did not vote, or B, they went out and voted for the opposition, just for the simple fact that the GOP is trying to recruit their vote without giving them any voice in the party, not listening to any of their concerns, any of the issues that they are passionate about, just sticking up a candidate that they know that the LP does not support, does not like, does not represent them on any of their issues, and expects them to vote for them simply because they expect them to rally behind their candidate so that the Democratic candidate does not win. And libertarian independent voters are sick and tired of it. So there needs to be a shift one way or another, or the GOP is going to continue to lose one way or the other.
I think it's libertarians that need to shift, though, not the GOP. Look at progressives. Their party is the Green Party. Okay, that is what's supposed to be the progressive party, but they don't vote for the Green Party because they've realized that their best chances at actually doing anything in the United States is by taking over the Democratic Party, getting people to run with the D next to their name, and then, filling up all of the seats in Congress and everywhere else so that they can eventually win a president like Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders has gotten closer and closer to winning the presidency, or winning the Democratic nomination each time he's gone up. And even Biden, when somebody like Dakota or any of those other people call Biden and Kamala these far left radicals, that's because these truly are the farthest left people we've ever had in office. They are still the most progressive people we've ever had in office. And the reason for that is because the Progressive Party is such a big portion of their vote to where they have to do that. They have to bend to the progressives. And Biden is negotiating terms and policies with Bernie Sanders every single day right now so that he can get the progressive vote. So if libertarians were all saying, hey, look, we'll vote for your party, we'll be in there, but you guys have to start moving in our direction and negotiate some of our terms and negotiate some of our policies so that we can feel comfortable enough supporting you, then they would be able to start taking over the Republican Party. And the Republican Party is already moving in a very libertarian direction anyways. So I think that it would be a much easier feat for libertarians than it is for progressives in the Democratic Party.
I have to disagree with you there, Tom. I don't see the Republican Party moving in a more libertarian direction. I see them moving in the exact opposite direction. And that's why libertarians are so incredibly frustrated, especially because the Republican Party has become less the Republican Party and more the Trump Party. It is more interested in just making sure that the Democratic Party does not win anything. It's all about owning the libs and being pro-Trump, and let's just, hand it to them. Let's, make them mad on Twitter. It's less about getting anything done and more about just making sure that the other side doesn't win. And unlike the Democratic Party, unlike people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris that recognize that, you know, they have this super progressive voting base that is willing to vote for them if they are willing to bend a little bit to their issues, the Republican Party has proven that they're not willing to do that. They are stonewalling on, this is what we believe and this is where we stand, and we're not going to bend to get your vote. Vote for us if you want to. Don't vote for us if you don't want to. We don't need you. We have, you know, we have our MAGA people.
Project Sadface said every politician is for money and helping their friends, but we have never had a president as bad as Trump ever. He also said Trump and Barr have turned the rule of law to trash. And then he also said, the more parties, the better, I say. Jolene said, I think the left and right are doing that, and there are moderate Democrats that are leaning to the Lib Party because of it. Jerry Meisner said we should have a ranked voting system, and the president should have his power limited by the percent of the country that supported them. Something like, if you don't get X support, then you don't get to play with the executive orders. I don't know how that works, though. Like, how does it work with a president that's only in charge of, like, a small percentage of the country? Like, how could that... I don't understand how
like
that...
a video game, like, you've unlocked this amount of power.
Yeah, up, down, left, right, A, B, A. Yeah, you're... Okay. But I think that Trump has... I think that Trump has a lot, because I know a lot of progressives that are actually voting for Trump. A lot. That they think Trump is a much better candidate than Joe Biden. That they wanted to vote for a Democrat. They voted for Democrats their entire life, but Trump still has better progressive policies than anything that Joe Biden has, and that they're more afraid of Joe Biden doing something bad and stupid than they are of Trump doing something bad and stupid, because he's already proven how stupid he can be. Whereas Biden, we have no clue. He's just a wild card. And I do think that Trump moves the Republican Party a little bit farther into the middle on some things. On other things, he moves them way off into the right, off into the distance. Where did they go? Where did the Republican Party go? They're so far right now. I can't find them. So yes, they are. I think that things like the Tea Party and Trump and lots of other things, like these are things that have really helped move the Republican Party into a different direction. Tim, you got anything to add?
Yeah, I don't like the direction that it's going. Like you said, it's in a new direction. I don't like that direction. I think I'm glad a lot of my friends know how I feel about Trump already, but it's there's too much cult of personality there. And I don't want the conservative or Republican Party to be all about that, when it's been like that for maybe candidates on the left in the past, where there's that cult of personality. But I just think that it degrades any political party when we get into that too much. And I'm not used to seeing the United States be like that. Be like other countries where it's all about this one leader. And so I don't like where we're headed. I guess that's what I want to say.
Okay. Everybody, this is Tim Cheetah. He's got his own podcast called The Theologian's Table. Or did I get it right?
That's
okay.
right. Yep.
Yeah. Tell them about your show real quick before you go.
My show is basically like if you're taking an intro to Christian theology course, but at someone's dining room table. So I try to be casual and not to be overly academic with what I share or teach. And I'm not a fundamentalist or anything like that. I try to be as middle road as I can on most topics, and sometimes I surprise myself. But yeah, that's basically my show in a nutshell. So,
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you joining us tonight and coming on.
yeah, it was my
Have a good
pleasure.
night.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, have a good night.